Not comfortable with that. Sorry. All right, great. Aaron's got three tips and tricks he's going to share with us. You can feel free to leave any questions you have in the chat, but there will be some room at the end of this call in order for you to just ask questions too. So, all right, Aaron, I'm going to let you take it away.
Good. Well, thanks again for having me. My name is Aaron Short. I am a financial advisor in the Geist area of Indianapolis, and really appreciate you having me on, Leanne. Appreciate all that you do for Water for Good. You've got a great team, and just it's been just such a privilege to watch all that Water for Good has been able to do to help people get clean water in Central African Republic. I mean, it's just such an amazing ministry, and so yeah, excited to be on here today, and as people are kind of pouring in, I'll introduce myself and just a little bit about my firm, and then we can get right into some plan giving and ways that you can work with your financial advisor or your tax professionals to accommodate some charitable gifting for your family and for great organizations like Water for Good. So again, my name is Aaron Short with Geist Family Wealth here in Central Indiana in the Geist area. What I wanted to do here is actually as opposed to just spending the next 30 minutes blasting you with statistics and tax tips and all of those kinds of things, I really wanted to direct you to a resource that you can utilize kind of a la carte, that you can come back to whenever it's more convenient for you. So think of today as an opportunity for me to share with you the just a couple of core ideas and core strategies we're utilizing with clients to frankly, keep more money in your pocket, gift more money to good charitable organizations, and frankly, reduce your tax liability. So, Lane, I don't know about you, but I feel like if we can find ways to reduce taxes and yet give that money back to great charitable organizations, I think that's a much better use of dollars. So what I'm going to do here is I will share my screen. You should be able to see it. Leanne, will you give me a quick nod there to let me know? Okay, it looks like we're cooking here. So I'm sharing with you my investment firm's website, not necessarily as a plug to my investment firm, but specifically because we've got some resources on here to that you can again utilize a la carte after today's call. If you've got some more questions or you're looking for some more resources to research on some of the ideas that I'm going to share today. I want to point out real quick, like I said, we're Geist Family Wealth. A couple of our core values are really centered around purpose, stewardship, and transparency. One of the things I love about Water for Good is I just can't think of an organization that better embodies those three characteristics. And so it's just great to partner with great organizations like Water for Good that are focused on the purpose of delivering clean water to families in Central African Republic. It's great to have organizations that maintain a high level of stewardship, that and do so from a level of transparency. It's so important, especially in the 21st century. So those are just some of the core values that we hold. I share that with you because that kind of is the foundation of how we do business. I wanted to share with you now the way that I think of charitable gifting. Charitable gifting is truly a subset of your legacy. You and your spouse, if you have one, have spent a lifetime working hard, keeping your head down at a desk or whatever your job might be, to build a lifestyle for yourself. And if you've had the opportunity and the privilege to be blessed with some of your financial resources, then it's important that you think about what stewardship looks like for the next generation. And part of that next generation and sort of the planning associated with your legacy is centered around charitable gifting. So again, your money, your retirement, and some of the other aspects of what you think about on a daily basis is very important. But at the same time, it truly should be associated with a broader strategy centered around your family's legacy. So again, on my website at geistfamilywealth.com, you can access the tabs that say services, about, insights, and tools. If you go to services and you go to estate planning, we've got several resources here that take you deeper into your legacy and the planning associated with that. I'd encourage you to do that. If you had an opportunity to have a will drafted or a trust developed for your family or your business, think about what some of those activities look like. If you need some resources or you're looking for some good attorneys to help you with that, do reach out to the ones that you already know, or reach out to myself and we can direct you to those appropriate people. In the meantime, getting down to, again, your legacy, I wanted to share with you a quick article. If you go to the legacy tab of my website, there are several different articles that hit different topics that you can utilize. One of the articles that I really like came out last year by my team, and it's called 3 Non-Traditional Ways to Give That Still Qualify for a Tax Deduction. So there's 3 strategies that we are using on a frequent basis to help our clients do just that. The first thing, if you're not familiar with it, is creating a donor-advised fund. A donor-advised fund. A donor-advised fund is a specific investment account that you can contribute to and capture your entire contribution to that fund as a tax deduction in this tax year. But you can spread out how you actually deliver those gifts. So let me kind of break that down for you a minute. Let's say you've got $40,000 that you would like to give to charitable organizations, whether it be Water for Good or whether it be your church or other worthy organizations that you feel passionate about. So you've got $40,000. You can create, with your financial advisor, with a team of professionals, a donor-advised fund, place all $40,000 into that fund, and then gift it out over a series of years, so that way you can, again, receive the tax benefits this year, but the organizations that are the recipients of that can spread out their receipts of your gifts as well. We are finding that that's a great strategy, not only for you, but the organizations you care about. Organizations like Water for Good, organizations like your churches, it's important that they have a consistent and steady stream of income year over year. Let's just be frank. You got to have operating income to be able to deliver good services like clean water to people in Africa. So to be able to distribute that out over a span of years is both a benefit for them and a benefit for you. One of the important things to note that gifts that you make to a donor advised fund are irrevocable. So don't think of it as both a fund where you can dip into and invest in, and then maybe utilize that as your checking account and spend on purchasing various items. No, it's important to know that if you are going to create and establish a donor advised fund with your financial advisor, your professionals, that you do have the mindset of this is going to be long-term money that is going to be doled out over time in the form of a charitable contribution. So again, a donor advised fund. Now, there only certain organizations can do that. Only certain tax sheltered entities can actually create a donor advised fund. If you already have one up and running and you have questions about your specific family's donor advised fund, please reach out. I'm more than happy to take a look at that. If you do not yet have a donor advised fund and you're interested in that, first check out my website, geistfamilywealth.com, read some of the articles we have associated with donor advised funds, and reach out to me if you would like to pursue what opening up something like that looks like. The last thing I will share about a donor advised fund before I move on to the next strategy is you can put almost anything in a donor advised fund. We're talking about stocks, bonds, cryptocurrency, real estate. Any tangible asset can be wrapped into a donor advised fund. Okay, let me pause there for a second. Leanne, any questions about anything I've said so far?
No, and no questions in the chat, but if anyone has any, feel free to unmute yourself or pop them in the chat and Aaron can answer them afterwards. But so far, so good.
Good. Next item I will share with you is a qualified charitable distribution. So this is such a great way to save money and frankly save on taxes. So this is one of the easiest strategies to take advantage of, specifically for individuals who are required to make a required minimum distribution. So if you're on the call here today, or you know somebody who is above the age of, these numbers have been in flux over the last couple of years, but let's say above the age of 70 and a half or 72, you are required to take money from your IRA. The IRS and Uncle Sam says that, hey, it is time to pay taxes on all those tax deferred investments that you have invested in over the years. If you have a 401k or an IRA or a 457, some of those types of accounts, your qualified charitable distribution is a perfect way to reduce your tax liability, because you're able to take your required minimum distribution, but instead of then paying taxes to 20, 30% to Uncle Sam, you can take those monies and donate them directly to the charitable organization of your choice. And then it is captured as a qualified charitable distribution. The organization that you're giving to, they love it. They love it because they get obviously those donations, and they get those important revenue sources. But you should love it as well, because again, the only individual here that doesn't benefit is Uncle Sam. You're able to reduce your tax liability. You're able to keep more money in your pocket, and you're able to give to the organizations that you're passionate about. It's a win-win for truly everybody. The biggest thing that I will tell you about a qualified charitable distribution is you cannot capture one or conduct a qualified charitable distribution on your own. The IRS has very specific rules about how those monies are to be handled, and they must be handled through your financial institutions that hold your IRA or your 401k or your 457. That is a very important note. So I didn't make the rules, but if you've got some questions about it, or you've got some questions about how you can take advantage of a QCD, as they're known, be sure to reach out. Let's make sure that you're working with your financial professionals to ensure that those types of activities are handled the way that the IRS prefers. And let me pause there too and say, again, many of the strategies that we utilize have unique tax consequences, not only from the specific strategies, but they could have long-term tax implications for your family. So it's really important that before you start shoveling money around and based off of anything I've said here today, make sure you reach out to your financial professionals, myself, your own financial advisor, your tax professionals, your CPA, or your trust and estate attorneys. It's really important that your professionals know what's going on in your life to ensure that you're taken care of, and you don't get your hands slapped by the IRS. So yeah, again, that's a qualified charitable distribution, highly relevant for individuals that are required to take their required minimum distribution on an annual basis. And you can do so, again, directly to the charitable organizations of your choice and reduce your tax liability. So a win-win for everybody. Last strategy that I will share that is the true bread and butter of charitable gifting is making sure that you donate some of your valuable assets that aren't cash directly to the charities of your choice. I want you to think about, if you have a brokerage account, wherever it might be, let's say that you have some stock inside that account. Okay, let's say that you purchased, let's say $30,000 worth of Eli Lilly stock. Eli Lilly, of course, is one of the world's largest pharmaceutical companies, headquartered right here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Their stock has appreciated significantly over the last couple of weeks, last couple of years. Let's say that you purchased $30,000 worth of Lilly stock, let's say 10 years ago, but it has appreciated to $100,000 over the span of, let's say, the last 5 years. You have $70,000 worth of appreciation that, if you were to eventually sell off all of that stock, you would be required to pay taxes on a portion of that $70,000. Now, again, the tax consequences of that $70,000 sell could be unique to your family, and almost anybody here on this call, it could be a different tax consequence. But I can almost assure you that somebody will pay taxes. That is, unless you gift that stock directly in kind to the charitable organizations of your choice. In that regard, your organizations can receive all $100,000 completely tax-free. completely tax-free. Again, the charities love that because they still are able to receive their contributions, their revenue sources. All they have to do is manage and maintain the stock or sell portions of it to turn it into cash. But ultimately, you're going to benefit as well because you're not paying taxes on that substantial gain. That's highly relevant, especially in today's market where we've seen so much appreciation here over the last year. The NASDAQ right now is up over 30% for the year. If you've got certain types of stocks that you own could have high tax appreciation. Instead of selling them off and then giving the cash to your charity, make sure you think about what it could look like to donate that specific investment to the charity of your choice. We're also not just talking about stock as well, right? Home valuations have increased substantially over the last couple of years. Real estate has increased substantially. Other types of assets in the United States have appreciated so high in value. Think about what it could look like to donate those items or those properties or those assets directly to those charities, as opposed to selling off a portion of it and moving money around that way. That is certain to incur taxation. So those are three quick strategies that I wanted to share. Again, just a brief recap. Create a donor advised fund. It's a great way to gift assets. It's a great way to reduce taxes. Qualified charitable distribution. Item number 2, if you're above the age of that 70.5 to 72 range, it's so easy to create a qualified charitable distribution while at the same time satisfying your required minimum distribution, that it's a win-win for everybody. Third item there, donate valuable assets or assets that have appreciated in value to the charities of your choice. You're going to be able to pass along and defer your taxation, and the organizations that receive those assets are able to benefit by selling those assets off over time and being able to capture that as income. So again, those are 3 quick strategies. The last thing I will share is, again, unique tax consequences. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce your taxation by gifting assets away to benefit everybody, benefit yourself, benefit your family, and benefit the organizations that receive the cash value. So if you have questions about any of these strategies, if you have some questions about the taxation of them, or lastly, you're also interested in sitting down with a professional to discuss the long-term implications of your estate plan or your legacy, be sure to reach out to myself or other individuals that you may know who can help you out to ensure that it is up to date and to your wishes, and that everybody you'd like included in those documents are properly notated. So I'll pause there. What questions do you have, Leanne, any on your end or anyone here in the chat?
Oh, thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate that. And I think you did a great job breaking those down. I have included in the chat just Aaron's website, and then also the specific link that he is working off of here that you can save to. So does anyone have any questions? Please do not hesitate to unmute yourself and speak up. No need to be shy.
Who be this Kes speaking? Who be sharing the recording? I would like to listen to it because I missed some parts from the beginning.
Oh yes. Hi, Kes. We'll be sending it out to everyone on this. I have your email address. We'll be sure to send it out as well. And it will also live on our website too, I believe. So thanks for joining us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for organizing this.
One thing I would say too is something I see a lot as a financial advisor with a lot of my clients. Many folks have the opportunity to utilize some of these strategies, and many of you here on the call already might be engaging in some of these strategies, and that's great. But maybe you set some of these strategies up a couple years ago, and maybe it's been a while since you've had the opportunity to sit back down and reevaluate them. I'm a firm believer in the continual process of kind of re-engaging in your strategies that you're implementing, making sure that you have a firm grasp on what the benefits and the disadvantages of those strategies, and making sure that you're working with your professionals to kind of evolve with your life and with your desires and needs. So I think it's just a quick plug to say, make sure that the plan that you set in place a couple years ago is still working for you today, and make sure that you have a process in place to continually reevaluate it to ensure that you're maximizing and being a good steward of the gifts that God has given you to gift your money away.
That's great. Thanks, Aaron. Any other questions? Oh, Derek has one. Can you see that, Aaron, in the chat?
I cannot. You just want to go ahead and read
Okay.
it?
I can read it. I didn't want to interrupt, but yeah, I was just curious, like for a donor advised fund, can that be like an actively managed portfolio? It just all has to stay in a donor advised fund, or how's that managed typically?
Yeah, great question, Derek, and good to see you here today. Those assets can be professionally managed. In fact, that's the preferred mechanism. So think of it, for those individuals that maybe have an investment account, think of it as I hate to say glorified investment account that is specifically tailored to your charitable goals. So to your point, Derek, yes, it can be, let's say we have $40,000, right? And let's say that you place that $40,000 into a charitable or a donor advised fund. It can be completely managed and inside a stock portfolio or a bond portfolio or some combination of investments that will appreciate in value. Let's say you put $40,000 in here today, say 10 years from now, it's appreciated to $100,000. The great benefit of a donor advised fund is not only are those monies going directly to the charities of your choice, but they're also appreciating in value, completely tax deferred and completely tax free for the organizations that are going to receive them eventually. So again, it's just a great way to maximize the resources and be a good steward of the gifts and talents that God's given you. And yeah, we're able to manage them inside a stock portfolio that grows over time. Great question, which reminds me, it also goes back to what is your risk tolerance, right? Some individuals, they might not have as broad of a risk tolerance associated with investing in, say, the US stock market or other types of investments. That's fine. Again, just make sure that you have a process in place to be able to invest your money and be a good steward of that money in a way that is complementary to your risk tolerances. And so many of the strategies that I'm discussing here today, there are different strategies that you can implement to reduce your risk and to ensure that there's a safety associated with those investments.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. We have a question about Seda wanted to know which organizations can create donor advised funds. Like, how do you go about starting that?
Yeah, great question. So the answer to that is not necessarily short-winded, but I will try to give you the quick nutshell. Donor advised funds are not necessarily created by the charitable organizations. Typically, it's a third party. Now, we work here at Geist Family Wealth with a number of donor advised funds, organizations that specifically, like, their entire existence is centered around having a process in place for donor advised funds. So if you have some specific questions about how Water for Good can tap into, figuratively and literally, into a donor advised fund, make sure that your donors have set up a donor advised fund through the organizations that they can work with, that then work as a third party to give those assets back to Water for Good. So again, if you've got some questions about it here on the call about how can your family take advantage of a donor advised fund, you reach out to me. More than happy to put you in partnership with some of those types of donor advised funds, or reach out to your own financial professionals who no doubt have access to some of those types of funds.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Any other questions? Aaron, do you want to give us your email address too? I was going to type it in the chat, but I figured.
So absolutely. So my email address is aaron@geistfamilywealth.com. That's Aaron, AARON, at geistfamilywealth.com. Again, you can go to my website at geistfamilywealth.com to access some of the materials that I've shared with you today. You can also find my contact information. And just for fun, as we start wrapping up today's call here, if you go to my website, you'll see part of my team. Some of them here are based in Indianapolis. Some of them are based in Omaha, Nebraska. If I take you directly to my webpage. I'll show you a quick photo there of my family, my wife, Sarah, and then our 3 kids here who get bigger and bigger every day. So as we all know, we're creating legacies for our families and ultimately for great organizations like Water for Good. So again, it's an open door policy. Never hesitate to reach out. You can email me. You can access additional information and my contact information on our website at geistfamilywealth.com. Really appreciate you all having me, and I appreciate you letting me bend your ear for a little bit. And I'll turn it back to you, Leanne.
Yes, great. Thank you so much, Aaron. All the information's in the chat. So if there's nothing else, anyone has any questions, we'll just end a little early and give you a few minutes back on your lunch break. And just really appreciate from Water for Good. Aaron, thank you so much for coming out and talking with us, and then just all our incredible donors who joined us here today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye now.